appearance is pleasing. So that is first introduction. Whenever you see him, smile will appear on your face. He is a very prominent economist in our country. He did his PhD at the Maharaja Sayajirao, whose name is familiar to you through Sri Aurobindo, Maharaja Sayajirao University in Baroda. And then he engaged with communities in Gujarat. Then he went on to become the Vice Chancellor of a university set up by Mahatma Gandhi, the Gujarat Vidyapit. And having retired from Gujarat Vidyapit, from his Vice Chancellor's position, he has moved to a really small village from where he continues to write, engage with communities, lead a number of organizations. Among several other things that he does, he chairs many committees of at the government level, and he's also taking care of constructing the memorial at Dandi for Mahatma Gandhi, Sudarshan Iyengar.
Now, the Indic economic philosophy has already come, and there is a temptation to relate that with Gandhi. So, yes, there are certain elements, of course, which Gandhi would celebrate from the understanding, because he said that I am drawing my strength from the soil and the culture of this place. But the world is going somewhere else. I am going to read a few things because I thought that I will save time in doing so, because otherwise if I start talking then it will be an hour and you will miss your tea, which I don't want you to. There will be some things I'll read and some things I want to speak, and then we can of course have discussions. Where the world is going. Recently, a famous historian, Yuval Noah Harari, has mentioned that Mahatma Gandhi, in discussing potential in religions to solve the problem of humanity in the present. Harari writes, not that there aren't any economic ideas in the Bible, the Quran or the Vedas. It is just that these ideas are not up to date. Mahatma Gandhi's reading of the Vedas caused him to envision independent India as a collection of self-sufficient agrarian communities, each spinning its own khadi cloth, exporting little and importing even less. The most famous photograph of him shows him spinning cotton with his own hands, and he made the humble spinning wheel the symbol of Indian nationalist movement. Yet this Arcadian vision was simply incompatible with the realities of modern economics, and hence not much has remained of it save for Gandhi's radiant image on billions of rupee notes. Now I think this is what the modernity thinks, and that's how all the discussion that has happened, that where the world is going, where the science is going, where the technology is going. However, interestingly, this is not the only thought which has prevailed, fortunately for us. And let's remember Einstein again. In 1946, he was writing a foreword for Rudolf Kaiser's book on Spinoza. And Einstein notes, the confidence in the sure and constant progress of mankind that inspired people in the 19th century has given way to a crippling disillusionment. No one, it may be presumed, can deny the progress made in the realm of knowledge and in the field of technological invention, but we have experienced the disillusioning fact that all these advancements have not essentially elevated the hardship of man's destiny, nor have they ennobled his actions. The habit of causal interpretation of all phenomena, including those in physical and social spheres, he deprived the more wide-awake intellectual of the feeling of security and those consolations which traditional religion, founded on authority, offered to earlier generation. It's a kind of banishment from a paradise of childlike innocence. Such, in brief, is the description of the distress experienced by the thinking man of our time. Often he escapes from his misery into a fanciedly superior skepticism or into distraction of all kinds, which keeps him from coming to his senses. But the effort is in vain. We cannot, in the long run, substitute narcotics for wholesome nutrition. There are only a few individuals whose inner clarity is such as might enable them to impart their own subjective experiences to their fellow men in comprehensible form. Here it is of great importance for the people of our time to become acquainted with the lives and struggle of those eminent personalities who have endured and overcome their severe spiritual distress and whose life story and life works can offer us penetrating insights into this heroic conflict. I think that we should put Gandhi and Sri Aurobindo both in this category. And I think Einstein knew very well, and that is why Professor Ganesh Devi told us that he finally wrote when Gandhi went amongst us, generations will come scarce believe that such a one as this ever in flesh and blood walked upon this earth. This is the tribute Einstein pays to Gandhi. Now what is this man's insight? 1916, December 22, he has been invited by Economic Society at Allahabad. And he speaks on, does economic progress clash with real progress? And here is the insight. Frankly and truly, Gandhi says, I know little of economics as you naturally understand it. Only other day, sitting at an evening meal, a civilian friend deluged me with a series of questions on my crankism. As he proceeded in his cross-examinations, I, being a willing victim, he found no difficulty in discovering my gross ignorance of the matters. I appeared to him to be handling with cocksureness, worthy only of a man who knows not that he knows not. To his horror and even indignation, I suppose, he found that I had not even read books on economics by such well-known authorities and Mill Marshall and Adam Smith and host of other such authors. In despair, he ended by advising me to read those books before experimenting in matters economic at the expense of public. He little knew that I was a sinner past redemption. My experiments continue at the expense of trusting friends. But there comes to us moments in life when about something we need no proof from without. A little voice within us tells us, you are on the right track. Turn neither to your left nor right, but keep to the straight, narrow way. With such help, we march forward, slowly indeed, but surely and steadily. This is my position. So Gandhi is not an economist in the way the economists are, but Gandhi is absolutely clear that he has a kind of a vision, and in this sense, the first thing he rejects is the concept of economic man. And that is where he puts a limit to the reason, that reason is the solution for everything. Now, after this whole Indic experience that we have lived through, which was also part of the experience of the most of the economy, except that India had this angle on spiritualism, which again Gandhi brings in some sense in the behavior of the individual. And let us remember, in both the West and in Gandhian framework, individual is at the center. The West philosophy also celebrates individual freedom. Gandhi also celebrates individual freedom. The difference, however, is that the individual in economics is only an economic agent responding only to the price signals and acting on income constraints. And Gandhi doesn't agree with this. For him, the economic agent and the autonomous moral agent are both blended into one. You can't separate them. And that is where his yama-niyamas come. So his individual behavior, for him, the individual behavior is extremely important, And as part of that individual behavior of the total individual, which is actually, according to him, the quest for, that is what he did for himself, was the quest for truth. And this is capital T, which he knew that he is not going to get to the capital T, and for lifelong he is looking for this capital T, but he is convinced about the relative truth, the smaller truths. With conviction he goes on till he is falsified. That's very scientific. So his march is on, and based on these smaller convictions, he has made propositions how the economic system should work as subsystem of the entire human system. So, for him, between the Tantra and Tattva, the Tattva in the individual becomes important. The Tantra has to follow, and if the Tattva lacks, then Tantra can't yield to the answers. Opposite is in the Western philosophy. Western philosophy has left individual licentious, and it is the Tantra which is going to control. If the licentious individual behavior comes in the way of interfering the other person's freedom or other person's licentiousness. So there is nobody to say what an individual should do. It is left to the individual. The morals are left to the individuals. The behavior is left to the individuals. And only the Tantra will take care of you. I don't know whether here there are any CCTV cameras. I hope there are not. I failed as trustee of Sabarmati Trust. And there is a dissent note in the minutes of that meeting where I said that in Sabarmati Ashram there cannot be CCTV cameras because Gandhi gets defeated. If the Tantra is going to regulate the behavior of the individual, then Gandhi is not there. That is Gandhi. So, when we talk about the economic subsystem, this aspect of Gandhi has to be carefully understood. Now, why has this system-based thinking came in the West with the free individual? My limited understanding is that this came when the Western Renaissance happened and Protestant ethics was brought in. And it was the Protestant ethics which said that to, not the exact words, but to perspire and work for your family on this worldly affairs also is divine predestination. So profit ceased to be a dirty word. If you remember, in the religions, usury was not accepted. In Islam and both Christianity, you couldn't have charged interest. But with this Protestant ethics, two things happened. One, the relationship of man with nature, because then came the science, then came the inquiry. All the scientific inquiries which came, the dominant feature of this inquiry was not for the sake of inquiry in understanding the nature, and the quest was not really for the truth in that sense. There was a scientific inquiry, there was desire to know what's happening in nature, but whole inquiry was, as Francis Bacon tried to put it. Francis Bacon was a big scientist who worked on scientific principles, and it is very fascinating to read this passage, and I will read this. As the terms in which Bacon advocated his new empirical method of investigation were not only passionate, but often outright vicious, nature in his view had to be bounded in her wanderings, bound into service, and made a slave. She was to be put in constraint, and the aim of the scientist was to torture nature's secrets from her. And why you wanted to torture her secrets? Because you wanted to develop on material prosperity. This is the first critique which Gandhi raises against the modern civilization. His problem about modernity was that this modernity and this modern civilization is body focused. And that is what he wrote, and that is where you should pick up the book over there, which is Hind Swaraj. And in Hind Swaraj, he says, living in civilization, what is civilization? Civilization means living in better built houses, wearing variety of clothing, wearing shoes was all part of civilized society. Instead of spears, people carried revolvers containing 5 or more chambers. Ploughing land with steam engines and make wealth was hailed as a sign of civilization. Flying, flying from one place to another was considered the height of civilization. Sorry, I flew from Mumbai. I must excuse myself. He visualizes the future in the following manner. As men progress, they shall be able to travel in airships, and this is 1909, Gandhi is writing, and reach any part of the world in few hours, carrying coronavirus with them. Men will not need the use of their hands and feet. They will press a button and they will have their clothing by their side, another button and they will have their newspaper, a third and a motor car will be waiting for them. They will have variety of delicately dished up food. Formerly, when people wanted to fight one another, they measured between them bodily strength. Now it is possible to take away thousands of lives by one man working behind a gun from a hill. Now even that is not necessary. This is 1909. Now you need only a control room where president can go and press the button and the rest is done. This is civilization. Now, civilization seeks to increase bodily comforts. Now what are these bodily comforts? Germaine Greer, a feminist, wrote a book called The Whole Women. And in that she notes, this is 1999, she notes, the UK beauty industry takes pound 8.9 billion a year out of women's pockets. Magazines financed by the beauty industry teach little girls that they need makeup and train them to use it. So establishing their lifelong reliance on beauty products. Not content with showing pre-teens how to use foundations, powders, concealers, blushers, eyeshadows, eyeliners, lip liners, lipstick and lip gloss, the magazines identify problems of dryness, flakiness, blackheadness, shininess, dullness, blemishes, puffiness, oiliness, spots, greasiness that little girls are meant to treat with moisturizers, fresheners, masks, packs, washes, lotions, cleansers, toners, scrubs, astringent, none of which will have the slightest difference, and all of which cost money which the child does not have. Pre-teen cosmetics are relatively cheap, but within a few years, more sophisticated marketing will have persuaded the most level-headed young women to throw money away on all chemical preparations containing anything from silk to cashmere, pearls, proteins, royal jelly, placenta extracts, ceramides, biotin, collagen, phytotensirs, biozobol, jojoba, hydrocaptors, serine, fruit hydroxyl acids, oleosphere, cornospheres, nanovectors, glycerol, anything real or phony that might fend off her imminent collapse into hideous disreptitude. This is the body focus. And where it is not, we have just come to that stage. Did you know that The Economist on 1st April 17, there is a special report which says, because of the lack of brand loyalty, companies have to put even more thought into marketing than they do in the West. This is about India. And C.K. Prahlad, of course, you know the management guru who wrote Bottom of the Pyramid. And he thought that why slum girls should not look beautiful. And my wife sitting here fights for the tribal girls because they come with lipsticks but only 3 grams of hemoglobin. So what do we require? Fair and Lovely for 5 rupees or some iron tablets? This is what Gandhi is asking as a question. And this is the economics, because if you don't do this, you can't be a 5 trillion economy. And we want to be a 5 trillion economy very soon, in 2022. So tomorrow, if some of you are not eating outside, please start doing that. Because unless you do a Swiggy or a Zomato, every day, once in a day, you will not be able to raise the GDP growth rate. And if you do it in 1 month, you will have to go and see a gastroenterologist, and he will tell you that you have indigestion to reflux, and then you go to a reflux specialization, because for that you will have to open a medical college where you will require more gastroenterologists. So medical college will be opened, and then you will be charging some lakhs of fees, and if you do that, then your GDP is going to grow very fast. So there is hardly any difference between hospital and hospitality industry, because both care for occupancy rates. That is the story of today's economy. This is what was criticized by the modernity. The costliest car is costing $8 million. The costliest car. Yardley soap. So stop making soap here. Why are you making soap here? It has come to listen to Gandhi's discourse. It's very interesting. So, why can't we make our own soaps? This is the point. Why do we have to use Yardley, which is costing a few dollars more than... And there is, in Oxford Street, there's a body shop. That was way back in 2013. But now in India you have body shop. I was surprised to see this body shop. What is this body shop? And then when I went in, the person was very happy to show me some hundreds of sprays and toiletries, which were really not very cheap, of course, very, very expensive. So I think this is the critique. I'm just trying to make out that this body focus and this economy thrives on body focus. That is what is the problem with modern economics. That there is only a hype, you cannot go back. And this has resulted in, and listen, look at the arrogance of this society. You are willing to do climate change conferences, and you are willing to write papers on that, and you will be awarded gold medals for writing the best paper on climate change. And we are there. We started with economics. Now we are teaching, first we started teaching environmental economics. Now we are teaching ecological economics. So we have become specialized. So we are also teaching ecological economics. We take pride in it. But we are doing nothing to solve the problem of the ground. Because we think that Tina factor is operating. There is no alternative. And how can you deny this? All is talking about modern science and technology. Even brushing your teeth needs a German technology. Because it is in the toothpaste, the company claims that there is German technology. So you can't use a piece of neem ka tukda and then start chewing it. No, that's not on. You are backward. You can't be using that. This is the problem. Now, with all this kind of diagnosis, which Gandhi said that this is body focus, he said that the economy has to change. Again, bringing back individual in the focus. This individual is the ashram experiments and the experiments at Gujarat Vidyapeeth as National Vidyapeeth. The experiments were in how do you create your own roti, kapda or makan. And that is the priority. And if you do that, your own quest to build the society, what he would call ahimsa samaj, the non-violent society, for building this non-violent society, individual will have to do the Ekadasha Vrat. 5 are the yamas, which Sangeeta discussed with you. Gandhi adds 6 more to these 5. And 2 are supplementary, and the rest actually happen to be part of individuals' social obligation in the context of Indian society. What are the supplementary? I don't now sit and explain Satya, Hinsa, Brahmacharya, except that, my dear Subrat. Is that right? Okay. Brahmacharya is Sanyam. Control over the senses of the self. That's another interpretation of it, in addition to what Sangeeta has told. Satya cannot stand without Abhaya. So the next Vrata is abhaya. Abhaya is fearlessness. And this fearlessness is not headstrong. I am not afraid of you. I am not afraid of anybody. I am not afraid of a lion. That's not enough. I don't feel threatened and I don't threaten anybody. So accept ye, otherwise you are a deshdrohi. That's a threat. Right? So abhaya. Without abhaya, you can't be truthful. That is the supplementary vrata you need. Then sanyama, from brahmacharya, you require a swada, control over palate. You can't be indulgent into your sensory behavior. So that is aswada. Aswada is not eating insipid, tasteless food. It is that you have to have control on your palate. Then comes shrama, which is production with some, which is happening here in this campus. You have to contribute your labor in some production system. I'm little slow, I'm little low in my voice because I am unable to do it. I tried this time growing paddy, working in the paddy field. So after some 6 hours I asked my expert, what is he going to pay me? He said, you are going to get 40 rupees for the work you have done. I realized that in 40 rupees I can't live. This is what I have become a useless person. But Gandhi said, Shrama, be into productive work. Harari may feel that he was spinning all the time, but he was Swavalambi, he was self-reliant. So Shram tells you that you can be self-reliant. That is the next vrata. And then comes Swadeshi. And Swadeshi, I will read a few passages and then I will stop because I don't want to go on and on. But before that, let me complete the other ones. It was Asprishya Bhavana. Gandhi wants to put this on agenda. He is a direct fighter. He says that he can forget about Hinduism. He is a Sanatani Hindu, but he better be not a Hindu if the Sparsha Bhavana, the untouchability doesn't go away. All men are equal. And this equality is essential for Gandhi, and maybe that he also from Ishavasya Upanishadam, when he said that there is only one shloka which is important, is Ishavasyam idam sarvam, yat kinchit jagatyam jagat. I think he also remembered the 6th shloka of it, which said, Yastu sarvani bhutani atmanyeva anupashyate sarvabhuteshu cha atmanam tato na vijugupsate. I think this is the deepest message which Ishavasya Upanishad gives about the human equality, where there are no castes and religious differences. This is enough for us. And Gandhi brings asprashyata and tolerance. And what kind of practice in this tolerance? This is starting in South Africa. And Mane to Mare Hari Valore is being sung in the evening bhajans on every Friday. And once Rustam Sethji comes and sits down and says that, Gandhi, can we have, instead of Maro Hari Valore, can we have Horamzad Amaro Valore? And Gandhi says, go ahead, no problem. So whenever Rustamji Seth is there in that bhajan on that day in the evening, instead of Hari, Horamzad is Vahalo. So, the Parsi is there, very much he feels. Joseph Rayappan once comes and says, Vaishnava Janato Tene Kaye. He said, Gandhi, can we have Krishna Janato Tene Kaye? So in the next, whenever Joseph Rayappan is there, the bhajan is sang as Krishna Janato Tene Kaye. Now, this is the kind of tolerance and inclusiveness which Gandhi is talking about. It is this strength that Gandhi practices it all his life, and it is this strength that he goes and stands in front of the rioters in Calcutta, and just by the sight, I'll tell you, this is not easy. Just by looking at them, they drop their armaments. And Calcutta becomes quiet. Lord Mountbatten said, that I have an army of 50,000 fighting in Punjab, and there is one person, and yet there is no peace, and there is one person who is walking among people. This one man army has brought the peace to the country that we need. This is the strength of that person. This is the inner strength of that person with which he worked. This is the practice that he did of that. So these are the 11 vratas you practice, and then bring your economic system into that. Again, this is 1916. Gandhi in Hind Swaraj has thought through. The document is there. I would recommend those who have not read. One is autobiography, the other is Hind Swaraj, the third is Letters from Yarwada, which talks about the 11 vratas. Kindly just go through them, because that gives you all the insights. And in 1916, Gandhi is addressing missionary conference at Madras, not far from here. He is talking to priests. Swadeshi is that spirit in us which restricts us to the use of service of our immediate surroundings to the exclusion of the more remote. Thus, as for religion, in order to satisfy the requirement of definition, I must restrict myself to my ancestral religion. That is the use of my immediate religious surrounding. If I find it defective, I should serve it by purging it of its defects. In the domain of politics, I should make use of the indigenous institution and serve them by curing them of their proved defects. In that of economics, I should use only things that are produced by my immediate neighbors and serve those industries by making them more efficient and complete where they might be found wanting. Hinduism has become a conservative religion and therefore a mighty force because of the Swadeshi spirit underlying it. It is the most tolerant because it is non-proselytizing. It has succeeded not in driving, as I think it has been erroneously held, but in absorbing Buddhism. A Hindu refuses to change his religion, not necessarily because he considers it to be the best, but because he knows that he can complement it by introducing reforms. If there is any substance in what I have said, will not the great missionary bodies of India, to whom she owes a deep debt of gratitude for what they have done and are doing, to do still better and serve the spirit of Christianity better by dropping the goal of proselytizing, by continuing their philanthropic work? The question of village sanitation, etc., would have been solved long ago. Gandhi's spectacles, Gandhi ke chashme, we discussed that. The village panchayats would now be a living force in a special way, and India would almost be enjoying self-government suited to its requirement, and would have been spared the humiliated spectacle of organized assassination on its sacred soil. It's not too late to mend, and you can help if you will, as no other body or bodies can. Much of the deep poverty of the masses is due to ruinous departure from Swadeshi in the economic and industrial life. I think of Swadeshi not as a boycott movement undertaken by way of revenge. I conceive it as a religious principle to be followed by all. The handloom industry is in dying condition. I took special care during my wanderings last year to see as many weavers as possible, and my heart ached to find how they had lost, how families had retired from this once flourishing and honorable occupation. If we follow the Swadeshi doctrine, it would be your duty and mine to find out neighbors who can supply our want and to teach them to supply them where they do not know how to, assuming that there are neighbors who are in want of healthy occupation. Then every village of India will be almost self-supporting and self-contained unit, exchanging only such necessary commodities with other villages where they are not locally producible. Take it to international. Now this is in essence the economic theory of Gandhi. Because he says that built from below, it is the oceanic circle. Individual again is at the center. But it is not the invisible hand market which deals with you straight and tries to tell you good food, good life. They are trying to sell you Maggie. it's directed to individual. It's not directed to community. So I will say that no Maggie, because my area grows nagli, which is ragi. So I'm going to eat ragi. Now I eat ragi. I have stopped eating wheat till we produce wheat. I take my own vegetables, which are grown nearby me. Makes eminent sense ecologically as well. Now, where is irrational behavior in this? The only thing is, yes, it may be little costly, but whom I am paying? I am paying my neighbor. So where ethics comes, Gandhi says, without ethics I can't imagine economics. It's a demon to say that price is the only signal and income is the only constraint. That is because you wanted to do your economics as an objective science. Economics is not an objective science. It can't be if you really want to have what you call sustainable and ecological. So I think this is the problem that we are facing today. And growth is useless if it is simply growth. So I think all these are, Gandhi challenged all these matters, and he wanted to, in that sense, bring the Gram Swaraj. Gram Swaraj was important, and let me tell you that in India, political environment has been created by 73rd and 74th Amendment. The villages have now right to refuse. So you have a Menda Lekha village over here, where they refuse and they say that हमारे गांव में हम ही सरकार, मुंबई और दिल्ली में हमारी सरकार. Now each village has to say that कि हमारे गांव में हम ही सरकार. We are the government in our village. We will decide our production, we will decide our economics, we will decide our sociology. Full participation. Gram Sabha means everybody is going to make decision about the resource use. And if village Gram Sabha decides, then we will trade with you on the mines which are there below. So the fight is long, and this is going to be a political fight. This is what Gandhi wanted to do. Bhudan was one mild attempt. Gandhi would have turned it into a satyagraha. Vinoba talked about karuna, and Gandhi would have talked about kartavya. That if you don't do it, this is your kartavya, this is your duty. He is a person of duty. So even in economics, duty comes first. I think it is quite long. I must stop here and look for some questions.
Hear about Kumarappa, and I'm interested to hear from each of you your thoughts on Kumarappa's role. Gandhi seemed to have picked him as his economist, if my understanding is correct. So simple question.
I mean, I was focusing on Gandhi. The subsequent message that was carried forward and the experiment which was done was by J.C. Kumarappa, a trained economist who had earned his PhD from abroad, and he came and understood what Gandhi was trying to say, and actually he actually tried to theorize what Gandhi was trying to say and also put it in practice. He was talking about economy of permanence, because he's a kind of an ecological economist who talks about how can you build the economy of permanence, which is only based on the need and not the greed. The whole idea that the whole economy is on the greed, but you should be on the need side. You do what you need, and that is economy of permanence. And a beautiful example that J.C. Kumarappa gave was that a mother, when she cooks and serves, she cares for the nutrition of the child. And when a halwai, the example was of the sweet person who makes sweet meat, the halwai, I don't know what will you call them in sweet meat shop owner.
Baker.
The baker. He does it for profit. He is not bothered about whether your nutrition survives or not. Now this is the essential difference. So economy of permanence is what is mother's permanence. Two, and the most important point is that in Kumarappa's economies of permanence, every living being also is being fed. In this Jal Thal Mal, because in this nature, human species is also part of the other species, and what human species consumes and discards is also food for the others. So the same is true. So that is how the whole thing survives. Therefore, economy of permanence is seeing that everybody is surviving. So in that, the chemical fertilizers and all these things will never appear. So it will be an economy of different kind. We can discuss the problem of agriculture today and why, I mean, what kind of Kumarappa solution would that be? But thank you for pointing out that Kumarappa is, in that sense, beyond Gandhi Gandhi is not an economist. Kumarappa establishes Gandhian economics tenets very, very nicely.
I'm very inspired by Kumarappa's work also. And many years ago, that was one of the very important books that changed a lot of my views. And very recently, just last month, I picked up the book again after many years. And I found something interesting because my reading of Sri Aurobindo is very recent. And I like the way he talks about the different forms of economy, from parasitism, and he builds it up to economy of service, which is what he means by the mother's economy. And I thought it really had some kind of a parallel with the evolutionary lens of that Sri Aurobindo talks about, from the vital to moving beyond the mind. So, because he also talks about a mental level economics where we both benefit mutually. That's the kind of thing that we saw. And how do we transcend that mind? And that's when we can actualize an economy of service. So, of late, I found some interesting parallels between the two. Like one level, we talk of Vinobaji also being a bridge. I think in economics, I found some kind of a bridging between Gandhiji and Sri Aurobindo in Kumarappa's work.
About the concept of panchayat systems that existed in different rural contexts of India. And my second question, how would you analyze the 60 years of communism in the Soviet Union and economy's role?
In my understanding is easy to answer because it only has George Orwellian concept. All are equal, but some are more equal than others. So the Animal Farm has said it. So that was what finally the Soviet economy was. And the problem, Gandhi had problem with that. Gandhi is also claimed to be a socialist in some sense. But Gandhi's problem was about the violence, the means, the importance of means and how do you really get one. And two, state can't be all powerful. The state can't deliver. Very simple. I mean, the entire experience in world over has shown that state can't deliver. The state also deals with individual and the market also deals with individual. Both of them kill the spirit of community. And a responsible individual's collective is actually which becomes community, and there are certain community values which are respected and lived. In both the market and the state, when they have the total control over an individual, this is broken. So the chemistry never works, and it never works. It's by design bound to fail. The panchayat systems that we had there are various times, I mean that has passed through various times. So our village republics in good old days were really off, except for the fact that we had a very unfortunate situation where we never thought that the untouchables existed. That is my recent experience also. I mean, recent means experience in 70s. When I went for village surveys, I would ask how many households are there. They would say 250. And then me and my team go and do the house listing and we will find 325 and we'll come back and say that you said 250, there are 325. Oh, you were talking about those 75 Harijan Vasahat. So Harijan Vasahat was not part of. So in that sense, yes, there was a weakness in that village republics that we had, perhaps at some time. But I think I would at this time mention that those of you who have not been acquainted yourself with Dharampal's writings, both on the education and the systems that we had, the village panchayat systems and the production systems, the science and technology, he has written a series. So Dharampal gives you a very beautiful account on what really it was.